Welcome to the Miracle Mansion podcast. My name is Markkus True. I'm head of treatment and counselling at Broadway Lodge. I have the lovely
Sarah,
come all the way from
Sheffield,
and we're going to tell you a story about today. So, we're doing it again. Today has been what we call a shit show of a day this morning. So, we get into this podcast this morning, where we're recording this podcast this morning. Partway through, the camera says we've run out of battery. So we got to start again. No, we haven't got to start again, so we pause. Me and Charlotte, the production manager, we check the camera, we delete some of the stuff off the camera, we get it all ready. I know that I can get right back into the zone with this, so I sit down, boom. Charlotte says to me, don't forget to record, don't forget to press record, and I instantly, and I think that I've turned the computer on to start recording the sound. Anyway, we get back into the zone of it. I'm loving it. Then I look at the camera and something doesn't feel right. Honestly, I'm like, oh no, I've not turned the camera on. I look down and it's 28 minutes. And I know that we've been well over 28 minutes. And I'm like, oh shit, we've not recorded any of this. Then I start going through this thing. I start going through this process. I think, oh God, how am I going to tell her? She's come all this way. How am I going to tell her? So me and Charlotte, I'm an R, and I'm just like, shit, I'm just going to go down and tell her in the spirit of honesty. Got to practice these principles. It just doesn't just work for you, it works for me as well. Anyway, so here we are again. Good afternoon, everybody. Sarah, thank you for agreeing to come back. And no, not even come back. You didn't even leave.
Didn't even get a chance to leave.
Yeah. So here we are. I would love you to tell us how you got to Broadway in the first place. Tell us your life pre-Broadway and addiction and alcoholism and all that stuff. So just tell us. And I know we spoke about it before. Obviously, you're much more comfortable now because you got over the stage fright. Yeah, so let's do it again.
So looking back, and I didn't know this until I came and did all the work, I've never had an healthy relationship with alcohol. Mm-hmm. So growing up, I thought typical teenager, going out with my friends and drinking. But actually, when I look back on that, the reason for drinking and what drinking gave me wasn't, normal, if you like.
When you say normal, what do you mean?
It was to fix my feelings. Mm-hmm. It numbed how I felt. It gave me confidence. It was never just for a laugh, just because other people were doing it. It was
like all your regular straight goers out there that can just go out, have a drink, get smashed, have fun. That's it. But for you, it meant something different.
Yeah. And I didn't see that at the time. And I didn't see that until.
Well, did you think you was normal then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you realise then that you wasn't normal?
Oh, God.
When did you realise, actually, this drinking that I'm doing?
Not until quite a while after, and maybe about 6 years ago. So,
What? As long.
That's when I realised it weren't normal. I wouldn't have classed myself as an alcoholic.
Why not?
Because I'd still got an house, I'd still got a job, I was still doing all these things people didn't know.
So you had all the outside trappings that made you look like a regular straight car. You hadn't lost your job, you hadn't lost your home, you hadn't lost very much in terms of what the outside world could see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think I knew at that time that it wasn't, the amount of drinking wasn't normal.
Okay.
But I wasn't an alcoholic.
Okay. Yeah, I can get that.
I can see now I was.
Yeah, I can get that.
At the time, I wasn't, and
You was a functioning alcoholic. Is that about right? No, you wouldn't even class yourself as that. No, that's too cruel a word.
I just thought I drank a little bit too much.
I just drank a little bit too much. Yeah.
Because it weren't drink that were an issue. It was everything else in the world. Everything else, whether it be someone's wound me up that day. I'd have a drink, so it's their fault that I've had a drink.
Okay.
Or something's gone wrong, so that's why I had to have a drink. Or not even anything bad. A celebration. But it weren't just like, a couple of glasses. It were, I'm celebrating, so I deserve to get bladdered. I deserve to do this.
What does Sarah, looking back, what does Sarah look like bladdered?
Oh.
How do you behave?
A right tit.
Because I don't know you like that. Yeah. I know a very different Sarah. So to see you like that would probably be a shock to me. So how do you behave? What are you like?
I just do daft stuff. I don't really never got really violent or anything like that. I just do stupid things. I'd get loud. I'd probably be a bit obnoxious. Well, probably really obnoxious, to be honest. But, just up for a laugh, I thought. But actually, I think the reality was that I used to get that drunk that I couldn't even stand up straight. And
really?
Yeah. And then, towards the end when it got really, really bad, Jay had come home and just find me in a heap on the floor or, spewed up everywhere or really emotional, do you know what I mean? But even when I look back at those times when I thought I was having a laugh, it was just like normal. Someone's had too much to drink and they took it a bit too far, because everyone does it. It wasn't normal, because the amount I drank and the situations I put myself in, I'm quite lucky that nothing serious actually happened. Some of the stuff that happened I cringe at now.
All in the pursuit of a laugh.
Yeah, but it wasn't. No. It was never that. It was, it was always, numbing how I felt, changing how I felt, changing what was going on in my head. I felt like having a drink, I was in control. And actually it's complete opposite.
Cool. So tell me about your head, inside your head.
I just couldn't make sense of anything. I couldn't explain how I felt properly. I couldn't, I thought I was crazy. I didn't think, anything that was going off in my head about worrying about stuff or taking things the wrong way, overthinking things and, thinking about the past and things like that. I thought I was crazy, and no one else, if I told anybody, they wouldn't understand me. They wouldn't get it.
Do you know what? Forgive me for laughing, but the amount of people that say that, the amount of people that come to Broadway and say that, and I laugh because it's almost like an identification with, if I told you what was in my head, you'd think I was crazy. And well, you felt like that too. And I know that there's going to be hundreds of other people out there that will watch this and think, I felt like that too. So why were you trying to numb your feelings?
I didn't know how to deal with emotions.
Why not? How did that happen?
As a really young kid, I had really bad anxiety. Okay. I'd worry about stuff like stupid things that made no sense at the time. So like I might see something on news, it might be something that's happening in another country, like let's take these earthquakes in Turkey. I might see that as a kid and think that's going to happen here. And then the anxiety I got from that, it was horrendous.
So you'd start worrying about it?
Yeah. I remember like when Crime Watch used to be on telly.
Yeah.
I was traumatised by it. Seeing something on Crime Watch and that we were going to get broke into. And I don't know where that came from. That I've always been like that.
So you catastrophise things quite quickly.
Yeah.
And you were doing that as a kid?
Like that, my earliest memories.
Yeah.
That's what I can remember. I remember going on holiday and we'd drive down motorway and an army truck had come past and that were it, there's going to be a war. Yeah, it's ridiculous now and I can laugh about it. But you know, at the time, I was convinced that was going to happen.
But when that happened, who helped you at the time of those emotions?
I don't think my mum and dad knew what to do with me.
Right, okay.
I think, it's different now.
Yes.
Mental health with children and stuff like that, it's come a long way. But then, I don't, and it must have been really hard for them because I was a handful. I wouldn't sleep at night. I'd lay awake on stairs, crying my eyes out because something bad were going to happen. And I can see now how this all links in further on in my life because like them afternoons and those evenings were when, my anxiety as an adult got worse. And,
right, okay.
I couldn't link that before. I can now. So it was kind of like, it was odd behaviour.
You didn't know what you was feeling. You didn't know why you was feeling.
No,
you didn't know why you was thinking that way.
No, but it was just this feeling that something bad was
going
going
to
to
happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and no matter how many times I was told, it's not, and then I kind of, I don't know, like I said, I think I did my mum and dad's head in, and it became then, they got fed up. They didn't know how to deal with it. They didn't know, what to do, and it were almost, I got told off for it.
Yeah. Okay, so they become exasperated with the behaviour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But then when bad things did happen, I didn't say anything because I didn't know if I was right or wrong. So I kept quite a lot of stuff in that happened in my childhood. I never told anybody. I never dealt with it.
I know this morning when we were talking, you paused for a moment. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see you look at me, and I have to say, do you know what? That's why I love doing this. I love doing this stuff because we're recording this again, and we're going to go there again. And you looked at me like, why are you saying that to me? Why are you asking me that question? And then literally you just took a deep breath and carried on.
Yeah.
Let's talk about trauma. Let's just talk about trauma.
Yeah, I experienced trauma multiple times in my childhood and, didn't deal with it. I thought I was dealing with it. But actually all I did was suppress it. I didn't talk about it, and that turned into this anxiety that I had. It was still there. So this anxiety from a young age, before anything happened, it was still there, but it turned into anger and rage.
And that's what we were presented with here at Broadway Lodge. It was like a ticking time bomb of rage. It wasn't even anger.
No,
it wasn't even. So on it, just like it's not like butter wouldn't it? It was like there was two sides to you. There was like almost like a really anxious, fearful, wanting to learn, almost angelic Sarah, and then, but behind there was just like a tick, 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 tick. Never thought that the bomb would go off, but actually the bomb did go off at Broadway, and we're going to tell you all about it later. But it did go off, and it went off. Yeah. It went off spectacularly here. But we learned a lot from it, and we both learned a lot from it. And so we'll talk about that again. But that's what you appeared to be like. It was just there was just two sides to it. There was a lovely, innocent side, and then, but behind that innocent, there was a like a nuclear bomb. And
I think that rage, because I think it's good to get angry sometimes. I think anger's, it's not particularly a bad thing, but
no, not at all.
This rage that I had, it was just how I'd learnt to cope. I didn't know any different. If I'd gone at school from being quite quiet and didn't fit in, because I don't know if this was my perception or if I actually was a bit of an odd kid. I don't know. But I never seemed to fit in anywhere with anybody. I didn't really have a group of friends, and I had piss taken out of me and stuff like that. But then when all of a sudden when this rage came about, and I thought, no, I'm not allowing anyone to hurt me again. Suddenly I'd got a group of people. People didn't want to mess with me. People didn't want to cross me. People wanted to be my friend.
Yeah.
And my whole behaviour changed, and it was, one, so I fitted in, I quite liked it, but then two, to try and protect myself, and that's the only emotion I felt that I could show, because I didn't like being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I didn't want anyone to see me vulnerable.
It's really weird when you talk about that. It's really, really weird when you say about not having no friends or struggling to fit in, because when I think about you here, you fitted in. It's just mad, isn't it? Well, you fitted in beautifully here, even though, all your life you've never fitted in anywhere, so you say. But here, everybody fits in.
Yeah.
There's a space in the puzzle for every shape, size, colour, creed, gender, whatever. You fit in here.
Yeah.
So it just struck me as quite weird hearing you say that.
Yeah, and I think since I've been sharing with, not just here but in groups, talking about those things, particularly like that childhood anxiety, I'm surprised about how many people actually went through that, felt that as well. And I thought I was just completely...
Well, you were the only one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, and...
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You literally thought you were the only one.
Yeah, I did.
Tell me about how did you get to Broadway Lodge? How did that even happen?
So my drinking just got progressively worse. Went from binge drinking to then increasing it, a couple of times a week, to drinking daily. And, my behaviour is a bit of an all or nothing. I've got an all or nothing mentality. If I'm going to do something, I'll do it all out, or I'm not doing it at all. Okay. But then if it goes wrong, I think, well, I'm not doing it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's that typical. So, along with drinking, I had to fill up all my time because I couldn't cope with any free time. Any free time was just hell. Yeah. Because it just left me in my feelings, it left me in my head. So it'd be, I'd overwork, go to the gym and drink, and I was working. Yeah, I remember you, because you were saying that I didn't realise until this morning that you did three or four jobs. At one point, I was working 3 jobs. Yeah, so you did a cleaning job in the morning, another cleaning job in the morning. So I started at 2:00 in the morning, cleaned, and then went on to another cleaning job, and then did a full-time job just to fill in time. And then drunk in the art? Went to the gym. Oh, yeah. 7 times a week, sometimes double sessions. Yeah. Why? And then, because I didn't want to stop. Because if I stopped and I had that free time, then, while I was busy doing something, it was better. God knows how I even got to that first job at 2:00 in the morning. I don't... but I couldn't sustain it, and so I was doing all this, and I must have put my body under so much pressure. I ended up in hospital. These spells are passing out, and ended up in hospital with a suspected heart attack. And it wasn't. It was just my heart rhythms were going funny. But even then, if they ask you in hospital, what do you drink, how much do you drink, and stuff like that. Did you lie? Oh God, yeah. Yeah. So just lying must have made you realise then that there was something wrong with your drinking. No, because I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I convinced myself. It's weird because when I said to the doctors, if they asked how much I was drinking, I'd said maybe 2 or 3 bottles of wine a week. So I never said I were under. I always, but I convinced myself that was true. Right. Okay. If that makes sense. So what was the truth then? Oh, it were 2 bottles a night at least. Right. Okay. All right. Okay. If okay. So that's just you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird, thinking back how I could convince myself anything.
2 or 3 bottles a week to 2 bottles a night is an absolute massive difference.
Yeah, I know. But because I've said it, and because I've said it to this doctor, it's all right. I knew that weren't, deep down I knew it wasn't, but I never, I thought, oh, they'll not know.
Yeah.
And they must have smelt it on me.
So when did you start to realise something ain't? When was that moment? When was that moment?
So that I think that was that 4 years ago, maybe. I can't remember. So I realised then that actually I probably am maybe drinking a bit too much.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. Not quite an alcoholic.
No, still not an alcoholic.
But just drinking too much.
Just drinking a bit too much.
Okay.
But then, I thought it were exercise, so I stopped exercising. That were issue. That's what caused me heart issue, exercise.
Right. Okay.
But then, because I'd stopped that, my health, I could hardly walk. I piled weight on. COVID came, and everyone were talking about what they were missing out on, what they missed doing, about meeting friends, all their hobbies and stuff like this. And I was like...
But for you, COVID was very, it was the same.
It was just normal life.
Yeah.
Because I didn't do anything.
What do you mean by that?
I just went to work and drunk. And, I discovered that Amazon would deliver booze to your door during COVID. So I could get it even easier. And I didn't even have to go to a shop. I didn't have to, I used to go to a shop in the morning at a weekend, because weekends I would just drink all day. And I used to go every Saturday, and I used to look a right state. And first thing in the morning, I'd be buying a bottle of whiskey. And each time I'd go and buy a gift bag at the same time.
Was that to put the drink in?
Yeah. But I went every weekend. Sometimes went back later on that day. But because I was buying a gift bag, it were all right.
Yeah. So were you trying to disguise that it was you that it was you was buying a gift for somebody? Yeah. Do you reckon they knew that it was for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. And that shop's shut down now since I've stopped drinking.
Oh, thank God!
True story.
Yeah. So you was keeping it. You was keeping the shop open. God bless them.
But yeah, they must have, because I looked a state.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that looking back at photos though. I was just so bloated in face, and I didn't take care of myself. I didn't really care what I looked like. So yeah.
What? Tell me about your journey to Broadway, and that just reminds me, your Broadway photo.
My Broadway photo.
So your
that's
Broadway
on my fridge.
photo, yeah, that's on your fridge. Well, I have to say, and I'll say it again, you look just different. And I think people, everybody that comes to Broadway Lodge, the first thing we do is we take a photograph of you. That is your Broadway photo, and that is just a marker for everybody that comes in. Now, it has to be, it's fair to say that most alcoholics and addicts don't look great when they come in. It doesn't matter how well you might have tried to make yourself look. Most people would have been drinking along the way to get here, to keep themselves topped up. And most people, are in a particular state. So that photograph is just the start of your journey. Yeah. This is you on the day that you arrive. What did your photo say to you?
Oh, I'd given up. There wouldn't, it sounds strange, but I look back at that photo and other photos, and there's like nothing in my eyes. There's nothing there. I'd just given up. Yeah. A few people say that. You just look dead. Yeah. If you could look dead alive, that's what some people look when they arrive here, Yeah. But yeah, they've got that now as a constant reminder on the fridge. Well,
like I said, you look, it's like chalk and cheese. chalk and cheese. Tell us about the journey to Broadway. Tell us how you got here. What happened that day? What happened? How did you get to Broadway? How did you get here?
So on drive down, I just felt sick all the way. I didn't know what to expect. Got all sorts going through my head, and all sorts of where it's going to be like, what people are going to be like, and I'm not going to fit in, and what are they going to make me do? Then I got here, and because there were still like COVID restrictions in, I did everything I could. I was praying to God that I got a positive COVID test.
What a load of madness. And that's the madness. And actually, that's the madness, as like you said, we said that this morning, but that's the madness of addiction. Sarah wanted to get a positive COVID test so that she didn't have to come in. Now, how mad is that?
Yeah.
How mad is that?
Yeah.
And yet you knew that you needed to be here.
I definitely knew I needed to be here because, I did all that process myself. I went through with helping my care manager and stuff. No one was forcing me.
Yeah. You weren't on a prison order.
No,
you weren't.
It was completely my decision.
Yeah, your choice and everything. But you had to do, what do you call it? A drink down.
Yes.
Tell me, what's the drink down? Yeah, the drink down.
So first of all, before even Broadway were on cards, they weren't doing detoxes or anything because of COVID. So we just did a drink reduction. I didn't think it was going to work, but my care manager would ring me every day, and I'd just reduce my units. So it started off, I can't remember where it started off at, but let's say it were 3 bottles of wine. I'd have to measure it out of how many mugs I could get out of that, and each day I'd just take a mug and tip it down the sink and have a mug less, which were hard, but I did it, and it surprised me. But then I think I had about 4 weeks sober with a couple of,
God, that's just giving me anxiety thinking about that. Was that hard?
Yeah.
I see. I know we spoke about it this morning, but you didn't tell me how it happened, and I was thinking a mug of wine, and
so I had to put in a mug because it were if it goes in a wine glass, it's nice, isn't it? Whereas a mug, I wouldn't normally drink out of a mug, so and you're meant to pick something that you don't particularly like drinking, but because of the amount of units I was drinking, the amount of if it were like, I don't really like lager or anything like that. It was too much. I'd have to consume too much to get the units in. Yeah. So we had to settle for wine, which I liked, which made it even more difficult. But so each day, so I knew I could get X amount of mugs out of 1 bottle of wine. So let's say it were 4 mugs out of 1 bottle. So I'd have me 3 bottles, so that's 12 mugs, and each day I'd just knock a mug off.
Each day?
Yeah, or a couple of days maybe, reduce it down. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the hardest part was when I got to I was throwing nearly half a bottle away because I couldn't just pour 1 mug and save that, but if that bottle of wine was still there open, it had to go down the sink, otherwise I'd have drank it.
Wow.
But I did it. And that sense of achievement I got from that then was massive. And I was like, yes, I've got this. I can do it. Yeah. But I didn't anticipate then how I would feel emotionally. I don't think I realised how much, because I still struggled with my mental health when I was drinking. And I thought it was bad then. I didn't realise just how much it was numbing it, because
how much alcohol was helping you to suppress your emotions as such.
And then I just
what was your head like then
horrendous. Overthinking everything, having flashbacks and bad dreams and stuff like that, and I just couldn't cope. I'd not got the tools to deal with my emotions and things like that. I was still, emotionally, my emotional intelligence were probably still a kid, a kid's age. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? It's really weird. I'm having a real different sensation this afternoon. I'm really kind of feeling about the emotion of your drink down and then literally your head just going wild.
Yeah.
It's just like, whoa.
Yeah. And I couldn't.
I think, do you know what? And I think that's the one of the big misunderstandings with, say, the general public about substance misuse, and whether it's alcohol or drugs, whatever, is that a lot of this stuff has been suppressing people's emotions, and it's just not. It just isn't about stopping drinking, is it?
No.
It just is.
No.
If it was that easy, people would just stop drinking and get on with their lives. But it is much more than that.
Yeah, and I think I was in denial at that time when I did this drink down. I thought I just need to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Everything else I'm all right. I just need to stop. If I stop drinking, everything else will fall into place. I'll not be as depressed because alcohol's a depressant and this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had a shock. A complete shock.
Yeah.
Just how bad things got. And I got to the point where I just didn't want to live anymore. Yeah,
you said you wanted to kill yourself.
Yeah.
But you just couldn't.
I couldn't do it. And I felt pathetic about that. I can't live, but
I'm not brave or courageous enough to do the act itself.
So I'm just resigned to being at this point then I realised I were an alcoholic.
Yeah.
When I got in touch with those services and stuff, and I thought this is just my lot, this is just my life.
Yeah. It's horrible, that point, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's proper horrible.
Because I had to start drinking again. I couldn't.
Yeah, your head
couldn't cope.
No.
I couldn't cope with it.
Your head couldn't take it.
I think it's hard to explain that to people. People can't get their head around that.
Yeah.
That I literally had to drink again so I didn't die.
Yeah.
But then because I was drinking, I couldn't access any services.
Yeah.
Community mental health didn't want anything to know because I was drinking.
You were drinking, yeah. They want you to be sober, but little do they know that when you're sober, guess what? She's about to go mad.
Yeah. And then when I did get sober, there's such a long waiting list for it.
Yeah.
And, I couldn't have any counselling because I'm drinking.
Yeah.
So they're not going to give you any counselling because, Yeah. So I was stuck. I didn't know what to do.
It's a rat race of a situation, isn't it?
Yeah. And then that's when rehab was suggested to me. So I went through all that process.
Why, how, rehab?
Well, I said because I were overworking and stuff like that, I couldn't stop. And I basically burnt myself out that Christmas. When I had that, that 4 weeks sober, everything else went on overdrive. Mm-hmm. And I just completely burnt out and ended up under crisis team. Mm-hmm. And I said to my care manager, I could just do with getting away from everything. I need to get away from everything because it weren't just drink. Mm-hmm. It was it was life. I needed a break from life.
You needed to press the pause button.
Yeah. But
pause.
I couldn't because if I paused, then everything to get out of control again. Yeah. So he said to me, well, I've never mentioned this to you before. He said, because I didn't think it were a goer, because I know, he tried to get me to have time off work and I just point blank wouldn't do it. We wouldn't even discuss it. Mm-hmm. He said, but have you thought about rehab? And I was like, oh, no, but, maybe a couple of weeks might be all right. Honestly. Yeah. Honestly. And he just burst out laughing at me on phone and went, no, Sarah, try 3 months at least. And I was like, no chance. I'm not taking 3 months off work. But then I thought about it and I thought, actually, realistically, because he said, 2 weeks is just an holiday.
That's right.
And I thought, no, it's, I've got no other option. There was no other option for me. I either continued as I was or I tried this. Mm-hmm. And then a part of me were reluctant to try it because I thought, well, what if I try it and it don't work? Then I've got absolutely nothing. Yeah. And my way of thinking was, well, if I just carry on as I am, I've always got this option.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But once I've used that option, there is nothing.
Yeah. And it's really mad because I had a situation the other day where I had the same thinking. Well, what? And it was related to my partner, and my sister said to me, "Well, what if it does work?" But my instant thinking was, "Well, it's not going to work, and then it's going to become a bigger problem."
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, what if it does work?"
Yeah.
And so yeah,
I suppose whenever I'd got this as an option, I'd got a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
So I mulled it over for a bit, and then things weren't getting any better, and I just said, let's go for it.
Let's give it a go.
So got choice. They said these are rehabs that will fund. These are what you can go to. Got a list of them all, and went on all websites and did my research about which ones I thought were going to be best.
What? How does somebody like you research what's good for you? Because how does your head research what's good for you? Although you did some good research, I'm not going to lie.
I had a friend help me. It weren't solely for me, but I did look at stuff on website and I was looking at certain things, and it might say that I think one rehab I was looking at, one of the options where they did drama therapy, and I was like, nope, no chance. Not doing that. That was straight off at cards. Didn't even look at anything else. So, and I made the right decision in the end. But yeah, you're right. I was dismissing things, and I didn't know what I was dismissing.
Did you do any drama therapy here?
No, thank God.
Oh God! Do you know what? It's funny.
No, yeah, I did. We did.
Yeah, because I'd be surprised if you didn't do drama here.
I got away with it, and then it's Amanda that does it, isn't it? Yeah, we had to do one, and do you know what? That was worst day of my life. It was
brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I remember you. I remember you talking to me about watching a podcast with me in it, and just kind of saying that really kind of helps you to tick the boxes. And I did. It kind of. I remember doing that podcast myself for Red Talks for CGL.
Yeah.
And it was just talking about my journey into treatment and recovery and what I do here and stuff. And then just to hear that you'd watched it and felt inspired to come here as a result of it. I'm not gonna lie, it did touch me. I ain't gonna lie, it really did. It really did.
Watching that, I saw how passionate you were about it, and obviously I'd seen from looking at website what your role was and stuff, and it called out to me. Do you know what I mean? I thought, he gets it. I didn't get it at the time. I didn't understand addiction or anything like that. But listening to that podcast, I could relate to some of the stuff that you were talking about, and the fact that you shared your experience, and you were so passionate about it and truly cared. And I thought, yeah, that's where I want to go.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you will concur with us and all the people that are going to be watching us that what you experience here is absolute love, and we truly do care, and we mean it. And please believe me, you will feel it when you come here.
Definitely, I got that from all at staff.
Yeah.
But that sealed the deal for me. That's where I thought, I definitely want to go.
Yeah.
Want to go there. It weren't just some, selling tactic. You could see it, it was true what you were saying, and how passionate you were about it.
And we are absolutely. It's really difficult to come across because, it's really difficult to explain what rehab is like.
Yeah.
I don't even think. I think we made a video not too long ago about rehab, and that video. And if you ever get the chance, everybody watch the video about Broadway Lodge, the last one that we did. That absolutely captures the essence of what we do here and how we feel. And whenever I watch it, I get really quite emotional. Often I start crying about it because it really does capture what we do, which is try and inject some love back into a life that had just lost. People had just lost it.
Yeah. I think I thought I was going to come and it'd be regimented and strict and, and it wasn't. You've got rules and stuff like that in place. And I completely get that, and I know some people struggle with it, but I completely get why there's those restrictions, because actually, in his active addiction, you give us an inch and we'll take a mile.
Yeah, people are chaotic.
And if we can't, I'd got it in my head when I was here that if I can't just stick to only having my phone on these certain days, how am I going to stick to never drinking again?
Yeah.
And I was fortunate I could make that link, and I saw the importance of that. But then I didn't think, the stuff that you've got in place isn't, it's not over the top either. There's give and take with it.
You'd be surprised because the amount of times that you see people trying to break the rules for just absolutely stupid stuff, and the rules are just there to keep everybody safe. We're all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah.
Let's just all keep rowing in the same direction. And yet there's somebody will want to row in the opposite direction. And I'm like, why?
And that used to frustrate me, particularly in like that second stage of my treatment.
Yeah.
That really frustrated me because, and I'm sure I got on people's nerves in house because I would tell them.
Yeah, that's not the rules.
I'd pull them up on it purely, not because, I don't really care if they break a rule or not. It's more about if you're doing that, you're not working your program properly.
Yeah.
If you can't follow these simple rules, it will come in from a caring place, that you've got to stick to this.
Yeah. Well, as I keep trying to say to people that, there are rules to life.
Yeah.
That there are rules to life, and the start of relearning the rules to life was just learning the rules in here and following them and sticking to them. Tell me about the GB unit. So you arrived.
So I arrived, finally got in GB unit because I was negative for COVID.
Yeah.
And do you know what? Everyone was so lovely. Made me feel so welcome. So, straight away from the off, that feeling of love and care and compassion were just, it was there from everybody. But I did find it quite difficult.
Yeah, he was isolated for 7.
Yeah.
Was it? No, it
was about 5 days. I had to have 2 negative.
Yeah, 2 negative tests. Yeah.
So, that was like the worst case scenario for me, in a room on my own with my thoughts. Sober.
Yeah.
But everyone were lovely, all the staff were lovely. They kept coming and checking on me and talking to me, and I didn't want to stay. I wanted to go home. I wrote phone to Jay all the time, come and pick me up. I'm not staying, I can't do it. Before I'd even started anything. Yeah. But then I settled down, got on with people down at GB unit.
Started to build connections.
Yeah.
And we, as I said earlier, we have a look at the person, have a look at the assessment, have a look at what the issues are, and we think, who would be the right counsellor for that person? And here is the start of what I was just the most amazing, beautiful, therapeutic relationship between a counsellor and a client. So we decided to allocate Louise, who is the most. Louise has taught me a lot about compassion. I mean, her and I do the compassion focus lectures and workshops here, as compassion focus is part of our ethos. But when I decided to go down that road and bring that into Broadway, there was no other person I was going to do it with. Was with Louise. But you two's relationship was phenomenal.
Yeah, and I didn't think she was the right person for me at first.
No, not at all. You wanted somebody hard. You wanted somebody tough, and we knew that was absolutely the opposite to what you needed.
I thought everything needed to be beaten out of me, and just pushed and pushed and pushed. I wanted someone to break me because I didn't think I was broken enough.
Little did you know you was already broken.
And I tried so hard, to push back everything, all the care and all the compassion that and the love that she gave me, and I just couldn't.
All your defences are up.
Yeah.
The wall was up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did.
How did she get your defences down? How did she take your wall down?
I think the first she did give in to me at one point. I think she'd had enough of me, saying, this is what I want, and she said, right, okay, and she gave me something quite difficult to do, and she did say to me, I don't think this is right for you, but I wouldn't have none of it, and she was right. So I went away, I got this book, couldn't even read the first page of it, and we're like, yeah, definitely, it's definitely not what I need. And then I think from then on, I realised that she was right. I realised I could trust her. I realised that she got my best interests at heart. And it just grew from there. I've never trusted anyone like I have Louise. I could tell her absolutely anything.
Did you have a lot to tell her?
I did, yeah. Yeah, and it was hard, but she made it so much easier. She made it as easy as it could be for me, if that makes sense. There was nothing else, I tried to push back, like I said, the love and the compassion, but I just couldn't. I couldn't fight it.
It's weird because the thing that we do here, people think that they're addressing just their addiction, but they soon come here and find out that they're addressing you're addressing much more than that. But what we do that absolutely smashes it is counselling and psychotherapy, whether it's person-centred, whether it's attachment, whether it's psychodynamic, whether it's one of the humanistics.
Yeah.
And it's the relationship between the counsellor and client and your ability to trust and build the most beautiful bond. And for what I saw with you and Louise, I've still got a picture on my camera, funny enough, of when you was leaving. That last picture in the hallway of you two, I think it's the day before last, and it's just like, it's just wonderful. It's just it literally. And I remember saying to you that this. I mean, I don't, like I said, I haven't spoken to Louise about it, but no, I did. Did I? Yeah, I think I spoke to her and said, that this needs to carry on. You just need to, obviously the therapeutic relationship ends, as we said earlier, but you two need to carry on. You just need to. You need to check in.
Yeah.
Just regularly check in. Because what I saw was just absolutely amazing. It really was. It just, I saw pure, unadulterated love between two people. I saw it from Louise.
Yeah.
And I saw it from you. Once you'd got over your, do you know what? This reminds me. I want to talk to you about the incident when Sarah's grenade went off, her emotional grenade went off. And you was in my office with Lee, and we were talking about it, and we were going to have to discharge you. And I remember Louise coming in, and she said, "Don't worry, you're going to be okay." And the way you held her, and the way she held you, and the way that you cried with her, and Lee and I was watching that. Even now, I remember it. It was like, whoa. Yeah. These two, there was just something different. It was difficult.
Yeah, God, yeah.
It was. I remember watching that. It was just
I do remember that moment, actually.
Tell us about the incident.
So I were smack bang in the middle of this therapeutic journey, and I just started opening up and talking about difficult stuff. And there was someone new in house that,
Yeah, he was new, wasn't he? As well,
yeah. I think it was only like his second or third day, really new. And behaviours triggered me. Wasn't aimed at me, you know, it was how he was with other people. And I felt this anger, this rage coming up. And I knew it wasn't about him. Didn't know the bloke, didn't know nothing about him, but just his behaviours brought back so much for me, and I didn't like it. And anyway, I thought I'd done the right thing. I talked about it, thought I'd dealt with it, thought, you know, everything were fine. And then a few days later, we had a group, and some other people brought up his behaviour, completely separate to like what I saw, but similar sort of behaviour. And this group just got quite heated, and at first I was getting quite angry at these people because they were it was all getting blown out of proportion. But then he justified his behaviour, and that was just like...
Well, that lit the torch. Of literally the bomb that I'd always seen, but we were just trying to keep it calm, and hoping that therapy would diffuse this bomb eventually. But no,
I think it just happened at the wrong time.
He triggered it.
Yeah,
he triggered that bomb, and I just remembered, just even thinking about from our discussion this morning. Yeah, I haven't been called to Broadway for years. I just remembered, I was just thinking about it. That was the first time in years that I've been called to work to deal with a situation. That was how bad it was.
I remember like after it happened, I was outside having a fag, and I saw you pull up, and I just thought, oh my God. You know, I felt so much shame, and, you know, it was just... Yeah, I didn't realise at the time that what consequences there were to my actions. I didn't, you know, I didn't. Yeah. And I didn't realise at the time that, yeah, all right, he triggered me, but then how I reacted, you know, then triggered him.
Yeah.
And I was then just as bad.
Yeah, it was just two. It literally was two bombs just went off. Then there was the light was massive, and there was all your friends kind of justifying your behaviour. But what I loved was that you wasn't justifying it.
No,
you didn't. You immediately knew when I came back in that was just not okay. And there was one particular guy that just, you know, was like, I'd call him a groupie, the way that he was kind of justifying your behaviour, but you just it was wrong, and you know, apologised straight away. But I think, you know, in this centre we have, you know, 4 main rules, and that was one that was, you know, blown to pieces. And so, you know, the decision to discharge you was going to be a tough one, but it was felt that it had to be done. And then we just went through a process, didn't we? Yeah. A real journey, a real process. And I kind of want to, like I said, I want to thank you for that, because that helped to change the way that we manage certain situations.
But, like, you know, since then, I think that's the last time that I've really exploded, or last time that...
You felt rage.
I felt rage, yeah.
Yeah. It's just not worth it, is it?
You know, I think that there's been one time recently I burnt tea or something, and I could feel something bubbling, and I was like, no. And I knew that that's resurfaced because there's clearly something that's happened that I've not dealt with. So I went to a meeting, you know, worked through it up, do you know what I mean? And it went. But yeah, I never... Yeah.
That moment, that situation, that changed the way that we deal with certain decisions here. And one of the things that we learned from that was that if we have a situation that happens on one day and we need to look at it again on day 5 if the person's still here, or day 7. Now normally, you know, in the moment, if that had happened on the Saturday in the past, you'd have gone straight away. Well, we knew that we couldn't discharge you, mental health issues, and we knew that we couldn't discharge the other guy, mental health issues. Well, okay, cool. So there have been some reflections. So that was the Saturday. More apology straight away. More reflections. More. Come day 5, what happened on Saturday was almost. That was like another.
Yeah.
It's like another lifetime. It was just, So. But again, like you say, rage has gone from you.
Yeah. Yeah, and like normally you look back on things and you think, well, I'd do that differently. I don't think I would with that, because I wouldn't have learnt the lesson that followed. I'm not saying it was right how I acted. It wasn't. But if I hadn't acted like that, then all that stuff that I learned afterwards, all that stuff that I worked through, wouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have learned. You wouldn't have had that. You wouldn't have had that magical lesson.
No.
As a matter of fact, let me just say this about emotions. If you don't know this, all emotions are good and they're bad. It just depends how you use them.
Yeah.
Anger can be good. Anger can be bad. Jealousy can be good, and jealousy can be bad.
Yeah.
So no emotion is good or bad, but it's just how we deal with them. And are you dealing with your emotions better these days?
Oh yeah, loads better. Don't get me wrong, I've still got, a lot to learn, and there's still ups and downs, and I still panic. I think, when I do have when something happens and I feel overwhelmed, I panic, and I panic because I don't ever want to go back to how I was feeling. And I still get this sense of, I'm losing control again.
Yeah.
But I work the programme, I put everything in place that I've learned. I've got a brilliant support network that I use, and it always seems to work out.
Do you know what I love what you just said? I don't ever want to go back.
No.
I just, the thought of going back to where...
Yeah.
And you know what, I love when I hear that from somebody, but sometimes I hear that and it's just words. And sometimes I hear that and I hear that from somebody's soul. And that's where I hear it from. I hear it from your soul. As I know, I've said those words. I don't ever want to go back, because that was hell. And I never want to go back to that. I never, ever want to go back to that. And I feel that from you.
Yeah. And it's that realisation now that I have got control of this. Because I was reluctant at first. I was reluctant to surrender, because I thought surrendering is giving up.
No, not at all.
And it's not. I surrender to get my power back.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done. And life's just...
Tell me about your life now.
It's completely different.
Did you go on to complete treatment here?
I did go on to complete treatment.
Tell them how long you did here.
6 months.
6 months. Did you enjoy it?
I did. It was... I did. I really enjoyed it. And that's... people might find that bizarre to hear, because it was really hard. Take that incident out of it, it still was really hard.
Yeah.
But I worked my arse off.
You gave it your all.
I don't think I could have done any more.
Yeah.
I really don't. And I could see, I think once I started seeing little snippets of things changing and how I was dealing with things differently, I kind of got a taste for it then, and I'm like, yes, it's worth it.
Yeah.
And I want more of it. And,
Did you start to feel different?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I remember, coming in and thinking that, you're going to teach me how to drink, and, and I'd kind of I couldn't think of life without drinking in some sense,
A life without drinking?
Yeah.
What would that be like?
I thought it was going to be morbid and horrible. Because life was so fantastic while I was drinking, not.
What's your life without drinking now?
Oh, it's so much easier.
No shit, Sally. No.
And even when I have, because I still do have them, I still do have blips, even those difficult times when I'm in it.
And hold on, by the way, I just need to make sure you heard that. When she has blips, they're emotional blips, they're not drinking blips.
Yeah.
Just want to make you, I don't want anybody to get that twisted.
No. So when I have these emotional blips, when I'm in it, it's still really intense and it feels just like it was before, but reality is it isn't. And I can't see that until I come out of it. But because I've got all the strategies and everything in place, I can work through it.
You got a support network?
I've got a support network, got a sponsor, home group meetings and
you've always got here the 5th emergency service, as we call it, Broadway Lodge.
But and there's nothing massive and amazing going on, it's just so nice to be able to enjoy life. And all those little things that I used to take for granted, like I didn't notice, like seasons and weather and stuff like that. And now it's like, whoa, spring's here and all these things, and I get excited about stuff like that.
Because you're alive again.
Yeah.
Because you've been dead for a long time.
Yeah. Everything just seemed so bleak when I was drinking, and I couldn't see it because I didn't know any different. And all of a sudden, life's just full of colour.
Yeah.
Again,
Absolutely.
and when I do have those difficult times, I've got a taste of what it's like now.
Yeah.
And I've got that motivation to push through and that determination to, because I've still got a long way to go. I've still got a lot to learn, but I feel like it's all doable. I suppose the thing that I find difficult now is that, and particularly when I first come out, and not just with work, just with people that weren't in recovery.
Yeah.
I find it frustrating because they don't. Like we've got an answer to it. The 12 steps are just, if everyone lived a life, whether you're an addict or not, it's just like the perfect way to live your life,
Isn't it?
And trying to explain that to people, and not in a I'm preaching 12 steps type way, but just trying to give them a bit of advice, they don't get it.
No.
And I can see that stands out now so much with people that aren't in recovery and addiction or anything like that are going, trying to tell them to be more patient or look at what they're doing, look at their part in it. They look at you like you're a complete alien.
And that's why I keep saying, isn't it lovely to have a programme that you just follow to live your life?
Yeah.
I literally, it changed my life, and it's changed millions of other people's life. I mean, even this morning, the fact, even this morning that we did this recording and it went wrong, it just went wrong so many times. Had I not had a programme, you would have exploded with anger and rage, probably thrown me out the room. I would have been fuming. I know what I'd have been like, because I used to have the perfectionist gene, so I would have been fuming and mad. Yeah. But you know what? We just adapted the program. I thought, shit, I need to be honest with Sarah. I need to tell her straight what's happened. I came downstairs and thought, no, I've got to tell you. Even though I felt ashamed, I felt like an idiot. I felt a little bit annoyed with myself, but not annoyed enough to be, like when you're just really, yeah. But that's the program.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a lot of the irregular people would have probably had a meltdown about it. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
and I think it's put life and things into perspective about what I've got control over and what I haven't got control over. It's even stuff like being stuck in traffic.
Yeah, you said.
I remember like one Christmas going to Tesco. I was doing my shopping, walking around, got my headphones in my own little world. Got to checkouts. There were queues everywhere. It was like a couple of days before Christmas. Left my trolley and walked out. I'm not doing that. I'm not queuing.
Why?
I couldn't stand it. I didn't have the patience to. Because if I stood there in a queue, I could feel myself getting worked up.
Yeah.
Why aren't these people moving fast? It's this whole, and I didn't think I were a selfish person when I first came in. Yeah. But God, I thought the world revolved around me.
Yeah. Real self-centered nature of addiction, isn't it? Yeah.
And then you drive into work, you're like, why are you going? Don't you know I need to get to work? Whereas now it's just like, whatever. It's not.
My favourite word. It is what it is. Yeah. Whatever.
And you can apply it to so much.
Loads of situations.
Yeah. I feel like I apply it more to everyday stuff than I do the actual drinking now.
Yeah. Well, that's because, as you said, You surrendered.
Yeah.
You know that you never want to go back to that.
Yeah.
So once you surrender to the fact that I cannot do that no more because my life ended up a shit show of a life,
Yeah.
this then is easy.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the struggle I see with people is that they haven't surrendered to the fact that, you know, that it's over.
Yeah.
It's over. They don't want to do this no more. So.
No. But yeah, it's definitely been like the best 6 months of my life.
Life changing.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Life changing.
Yeah, and I think I said to you this morning when we did his first round, when I left really feeling confident and I'd got this, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know, I panic and God, I'm in this big world all on my own, and I went through a grieving process about leaving here, which I found really bizarre. But, you know, it was the first time in my life that I could just be me.
Yeah.
I didn't have to try and fit in. I could, you know, tell my deepest, darkest secrets and not fear being judged.
Not one. In actual fact, people would identify with you.
Yeah.
How mad's that? People were like, oh my God, I felt like that.
Yeah.
No, what, you felt that as well?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're not by yourself.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I do at this, I met with a friend who was not in recovery, not in addiction, not an addict or anything. And I put this friend on a pedestal. She was, you know, I want her to be like her. She's fantastic. She seemed to have her stuff together.
Yeah.
You know, and I caught up with her when I come out, and I was explaining, you know, she was really interested about, you know, what were it like and things like that. And I was explaining it to her, and I was explaining like some of my thought processes and stuff, like my overthinking stuff and, you know, how your brain worked. And she was like, oh my God, I'm the same. And she could relate to so much of it. And she wasn't an addict at all.
Yeah, just a real human experience.
Yeah.
But do you know what? The brilliant thing about what happened to you is the change that's happened to you is that you were open to being vulnerable and sharing this stuff with her, whereas before there's no way you would have told anybody that.
No.
And that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference, you know.
Yeah.
I can't explain it to people. I can't explain what it is to be here, but I can only explain that when you come here, you're about to have the most life-changing experience that you will ever have. Am I lying?
No.
And I can't explain how it's going to happen to you. I can't explain what's going to happen to you. I know that you're going to feel love like you've never felt it before. You're going to laugh like you've never laughed before. You are going to cry like you've never before. You're going to feel pain like you've never felt before. But you're going to feel much better at the end of the process.
Yeah. Am
I lying?
No. And you know, you're going to get support and love that you've never, ever felt before. It's special.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful Broadway Lodge. Now I have to say this to you. Thank you for doing this the second time round.
Thank you for having me.
You'll be back.
And you know, I can't thank you all enough for what you did for me. I really can't.
I say this to you, right? It's a two-way relationship, right? And it is a two-way relationship. And this is what people don't see about coming into a place like this. For everything that we do for you, what you do for us for our souls and validate, you know, what we do to kind of change people's lives makes our lives so much richer. So much better. It's a two-way relationship. So what I would say to you is thank you for spending 6 months with us and making our lives richer and warmer.